Hello and welcome to the Literary Nunnery. It's time for the 2020 book roundup. Hooray! To start with some stats, I checked out 129 books out. I checked out 129 books from the library this year. A record number of ebooks, obviously. I did not keep track of how many of those were ebooks, but obviously like a lot of them. And in news that's surprising to me, 73 of those books that I checked out were new, ones that I hadn't read before. It felt like I spent the entire year just like rereading. Read a lot of Tamara Pierce, for example. Most of her series I have reread this past year. But apparently I did discover some new things, and I would love to talk to you about them. First, let's talk about some of the just like generic young adult ones that I really enjoyed this year. So I read Love a la Mode by Stephanie K. Strom. I just realized that I didn't write down any of the authors, so it's just a question of if I'm going to remember them. So that one is notable because it was something that I checked out from the first and basically only time I went to the Holiday Library when it reopened in February. Checked out the book, really liked it. And then obviously everything shut down. Love a la Mode is about two like culinary students who are going to a prestigious internship in Paris and they click immediately, but the drama of culinary school and the other students there, will it prevent them from being together as they both obviously want to be? So I really like that one. Another one that stood out to me was What I Like About You. I think this is by Marissa Cantor. And that one the premise was so sweet to me. It was about two people who are online friends in real life. They only know each other online, and then they meet in real life. And she knows she recognizes him pretty quick, and then just like spends the entire book thinking, I can't tell him. He won't like me if he knows that it's me. And so just like that awkwardness of them falling in love both places, it was really good. I did not love the ending, but I still thought it was like worth reading. I also put The Blue Castle on this list. That is by L.M. Montgomery. I just never read it. It was good. I can see why it's like her least well known, but I still think it deserves like an adaptation. I don't know, maybe all we need is Anne of Green Gables adaptations for the rest of forever. We don't know. And then finally, my favorite book of the year, probably just like overall, my favorite book of the year was Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. And I don't know, I just really loved it. I thought she did a great job writing it. The desserts were so evocative that it caused me to create my own copycat of whatever dessert it was, and it was really good. So it puts you in the mood for dessert and also in the mood for love, I guess. So the premise of that one is these two teenagers know each other in real life and then discover that they're also engaged in an online feud with each other, and how they like play off of the feud and also become better friends in real life, but then like what's going to happen to their companies that they're feuding about. And I just really thought it was really good. So big thumbs up for that one. In like fantasy young adult type books that I enjoyed this year, I went through a weird phase, and it was an accidental phase, but over the course of like 2 weeks I read 3 versions of The Goose Girl, like 3 different adaptations, and I didn't know that they were all going to be adaptations of The Goose Girl. I feel like I'm shaking. Okay, I may or may not be shaking. Except for when I was reading The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. Obviously I expected that one. But then I read Thorn by Ishtar Ikshani or something like that. I should have written it down. And Bloodleaf by Crystal Smith. And they're also Goose Girl adaptations. I really, really liked Thorn. I thought it was an interesting take on it. And Bloodleaf was really good too. It was darker. Or maybe it's just, I read the sequel to Bloodleaf a couple weeks ago. It's called Greythorn, and that one was super dark, so maybe my memory of Bloodleaf is also just like darkened up a bit. But they're all good. I like that fairy tale. I'm glad it's getting more more and FaceTime. Yeah. Another one that was a big standout to me was Elatsoe by Darcy Little Badger. And that one, it was a good story, and it was also like legitimately native folklore, like, and that's something we don't get a lot of, especially from like people whose culture it actually is. And so right before I read it, or as I was reading it or something, I happened to see like Time's list of 100 or 1,000, I don't even remember, most influential books. And even though that book came out this year, it was already on it just because it is groundbreaking in such a way. And it was legitimately a good read. So another one was Raybearer. I don't remember her first name, but I'm pretty sure her second name is Ofeoko Agioma? Man, sorry for not being prepared. I don't care. It's all going in the notes / the blog post, so I don't care too much. I think that one is going to be a sequel. But anyway, it was a good story about... What was it about? Oh, it's about a girl who has been born to, like, kill the emperor, and she joins the emperor's, like, special cadre of, like, bodyguards, and, like, is she gonna kill him? What's she gonna do? Is she gonna betray all these people who are her first friends ever? What happens? I cannot tell you. And it's not because I don't remember, it is just because I don't want to tell you. One of the last books I read this year was A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. She has other stuff that she's written that I really like. This one is, it's like a magic boarding school where the school, well, it's not necessarily the school, it feels like the school's out to kill you. And so it's just like everybody's just like trying to do what they can to survive to graduate, because they're just like literally stuck there for like the 4 years of high school or whatever, and then they can finally get out and be back in the world. And just like, I thought it was really cool how she like builds on the world building. Like at first you're just like, wow, this is like this crazy school, and then you like learn more about like the world of the school and the world like outside of the school that leads to the pressures within it. And I thought it was really cool. The second book I think comes out this year, so I will be reading that. And then finally, I would be remiss to not mention Return of the Thief. I've been looking forward to this book for several years. When it didn't come out in 2019, that was a really disappointing day for me. And when I got back from my Halloween trip and it was there waiting for me, I almost didn't want to read it because I was so nervous that I wouldn't like it. Especially because somewhere, oh yeah, here at the very back, history is written by the winners. And that stressed me out so much because I was like, who's the winners? Why is this person the narrator? Like, what's happening here? But I did like it. I won't say it lived up to every single expectation because I had too many, but I thought it was completely worth it. It wrapped it up so well. I'm so grateful that she finished the series after 20 years. And I don't want to tell you too much about it because I want you to read the rest of the series first, and then maybe you'll appreciate how I feel about this book. And I also want to talk about some series that I've like discovered this year or like gotten back into. I told you about the Tamara Pierce ones. Like they're like, I grew up with them, so they have a special place in my heart. I discovered a new series this year by one of my favorite authors, and it was an old series. I just never read it. Sharon Shin wrote the 12 Houses series. It starts with Mystic and Rider, and for some reason, until this year, I had not read them. And I ended up reading them all more than once this year, just because it was such a delight to have something new from an author who I find just extremely comforting, and I thought the world building was, like, the plot was also, like, very satisfying for me. So I'm really glad that I discovered that series. I also, was that this year or last year? Anyway, I also read Sunshield by Emily B. Martin. And it is the first in a, like, duology, but it's also, like, for me, because I had read the Creatures of Light trilogy that she also wrote before that, it was a clear, like, sequel to that. But I'm guessing that she tried to write it where you didn't have to, like, know all these people that were being name dropped, but I found, like, anyway, that was a really good trilogy, and it made my reading of Sunshield that much better. So if you're going to read Sunshield, may I recommend the Creatures of Light trilogy. They're on, I don't know if you can get them at the library, but they are pretty cheap on Amazon. I think I own them, so you can maybe talk to me about that too. Another series that I read this year, I don't think it's new this year, I just like had forgotten about, is Mercedes Lackey has this like Spies of Valdemar series or something like that, and I hadn't read them, and those are characters that I like know, and it was good to like catch up with them, so I really enjoyed that. And I'm just gonna scroll down on my notes here. I also read Court of Fives by Kate Elliott, which is also not a new series. I think the last one came out in probably 2018, but it was one that I hadn't read before, and like if you're just kind of in the mood for, I'm trying to remember how it was described, it was like a Hunger Games / Indiana Jones, I don't remember. I really should have done more research before this video. Anyway, but that was like a series that I enjoyed. So that's not a ton of books, but I mean it's more than 10 minutes worth of books. So anyway, I'm already enjoying reading so far in 2021, so next year I'll tell you about that.